All right, so like I just mentioned, this will be a pretty short class on this concept of academic integrity. That's a fancy way of saying, uh, you know, not cheating, or being honest with your work at the college. Um, there are problems if you are academically dishonest at the college. You can be reprimanded. So there might be a written letter, you might get a 0, you could even be suspended or kicked out of or dropped from the course, for example. There's a lot of different examples that can happen. So we'll kind of look at that and some examples of academic dishonesty here today. So CNAQ, every college, every university, even every high school has its own code of conduct. The code of conduct in for the college, you can typically find in your course calendar or your course outline, your academic calendar or your student handbook, I should say. So CNAQ promotes a positive and honest learning environment, and we expect that you follow this code of conduct. You can, if you're looking at your notes along with me, you can click on these links on the bottom. The student handbook is the first link here, the CNAQ student handbook. Okay, so what is integrity? Well, integrity means that other people can trust you. This could be your instructors, classmates, employers, and it says a lot about you as a person if you have integrity or you act with integrity. Again, you're honest, fair, and trustworthy. This is things that employers look for. So we're going to look at some situations here of academic dishonesty or academic honesty, and we're going to look at each scenario and answer the question, is the student being honest or dishonest? Okay, so this gentleman here is clearly what we would call cheating. They're looking over at someone else's work. So this is probably one of the most common forms of academic dishonesty. I know, like, for me personally, I teach a lot of science courses and we have labs. In a science lab, I do encourage students to work together, to chat, to discuss. But for a test, and this is pretty much true for any of your courses, for a test, you typically do not want to be caught looking at someone else's paper. The other form of cheating is, and this one I have seen a lot at the college in the final exam, is people bringing in cheat sheets, extra notes, even like some answers if they, another student gave them some answers. This is the old school way. When I was a kid, this is how you would see people cheating with paper. But nowadays, there's like earphones, headphones, there's smartwatches, there's all sorts of different ways people can cheat. So typically, when you do a test or exam at the college, especially an exam, you have to, give your car keys, give water bottle labels, give your cell phone, your smartwatch to security, or typically leave them in your car. We have metal detectors that they'll search, in case you, try to sneak a cell phone in. It's kind of like going to the airport, but anyways, it helps. Now, what about this situation? Sharing notes with another student to prepare for an exam. That's not really cheating, right? If you're willingly sharing notes and you're helping each other study, that's just being a good student. That's not cheating. Same thing here, discussing ideas for a paper with another student. So you could be discussing, it could be a paper, it could be an upcoming test, it could be a lab or assignment you have, but you're totally allowed to talk with students about, upcoming courses or assignments. Now, these two slides are going to look pretty similar, and they are similar. One is called collusion, and one is called duplicate submission. Collusion is when two or more students work together too closely on an assignment. Like you can see here, Fahad and Sarah are submitting assignments. they're four different courses, but it's the exact same assignment on academic integrity. So collusion is when you work a little too closely with another student, and I see this in the lab all the time. All of the students do their labs, but they're not writing individual answers. They're copying a little bit too much. And then there's like the real big form of copying, and I don't see this as much. But I know a few friends that I have in communications see this all the time. A duplicate submission is when somebody like blatantly copies, copy and paste an assignment. So definitely do not be guilty of duplicate submissions. Now, this one I've never actually seen, but this would be interesting. I would assume you might see this a little bit more in the business program where they're doing a lot of surveys, making up results, like completely what's called fabricating data. So, if you were doing an engineering course or a medical science course, making up data, you could physically harm somebody. In IT or business or, any of the other schools, again, it's a big issue for job safety, job security. You don't want to be making up things and then reporting them as true to your boss, for example. So don't make up results. And then this is the classic. Now, this is the one that always makes me laugh. I haven't seen it too much in the last few years. Even before we were working from home, or I'm working from home. But I remember my first year, my second year, this I saw all the time. The students would try to distract me during a test. They would ask me question after question after question. And the minute my back was turned, they'd start cheating or passing tests around. And I ended up, for some of my classes, actually having to have a second instructor in there, but it doesn't seem that bad anymore. This I've definitely never seen, and I hope I never see this. This would really make me upset as an instructor or as another student. Deleting a classmate's file so they cannot get a higher grade than you. That's called sabotage. There's other forms of sabotage. You might delete their file. You could mess up their lab results. You could even physically, they might say, hey, I'm not feeling well. Can you hand this paper into the instructor tomorrow? And then you never do. These are some examples of sabotage. I've never seen it, but I hope I never do. Okay. So all of this kind of boils down, or sorry, I should say, all of this kind of is related to one thing, this concept of plagiarism. Plagiarism is the practice or process of using another person's work and pretending it's your own. So you're not going to write a book about Hogwarts and wizards and witches and pretend that you wrote Harry Potter. You're not going to submit a Shakespeare play to your communications instructor and pretend that you wrote Hamlet. That's plagiarism on a very broad level. But plagiarism can also be something small, like just copying an answer from somebody's math test. So passing in work that's not your own is an example of plagiarism. And you can see some of them here. Sometimes, guys, you can plagiarize by total accident. So, for example, this one here, not putting a direct quotation in quotation marks. Maybe during your editing, you forgot to do that. That's still plagiarism. So you do have to watch out for that. Turning in someone else's work, copying someone else's words or ideas without giving credit, changing a few words. There's so many different types of plagiarism. But one thing that you guys should learn how to do is to avoid plagiarism by using quotations, paraphrasing, or summarizing. And they're completely different processes for roughly the same thing. Using a quotation is when you take the a narrow segment, meaning you take a small amount of the source, like 1 or 2 sentences, and you directly quote it. You use the identical quotation. It must match the author's writing word for word, but then you give them accreditation or attribution. This is a word you'll hear me talk about a fair bit. Attribution is when you provide a reference list of who you got the quote from. I will show you a little bit more about this today, and you'll learn a lot more about this if and when you guys take a communications course. You'll learn about APA or MLA or some form of citations. Very useful. Okay, so quotations, that's you take a direct quote, and typically it's just something small. 1 sentence, 2 sentences maximum, might even just be 4 or 5 words. Paraphrasing involves putting a passage from source material into your own words. You still give attribution to the original source, and you do this in every situation. You do need to credit the original author. So quotations are a small quote. Paraphrasing, you take a, maybe a paragraph or a page and turn it into your something much shorter in your own words. And then summarizing is putting the main ideas into your own words, and you really only include the main points. So summarizing is even less than paraphrasing. You're really just cutting it down. They're significantly shorter than the original, and they kind of look at the broad scope of that source material. So let's look at an example of paraphrasing and an example of summarization. So here's the original. Students frequently overuse direct quotation in taking notes. As a result, they overuse quotations in the final research paper. Probably only about 10% of your final manuscript should appear as directly quoted manner. Therefore, you should strive to limit the amount of exact transcribing of source materials when taking notes. And then my credit here, my attribution, this is from James Lester in the 2nd edition of his book, Writing Research Papers. And it came out many years ago in 1976. And of course, the page numbers are there as well, pages 46 and 47. So, you might be writing a paper about writing a paper, and you might have to share this information, but you don't want to steal this person's words. You need to make it your own. So I have an example of paraphrasing here. So there's the original on top. I just read it. Here's the paraphrased version. In research papers, students often quote excessively, failing to keep your quoted material down to a desirable level. Since the problem usually originates during note-taking, it is essential to minimize the material recorded verbatim. So verbatim, by the way, guys, means kind of word for word. So this paraphrased paragraph has pretty much the same information as the original. I'm attributing the original author. So I put Lester down here, and I really shorten it, and I don't use any direct quotations from this person. I've put everything in my own word. And then you'll see summarizing. Oops, sorry. There we go. Even shorter than that. Look at the summarization. It's just 1 sentence. Students should take just a few notes in direct quotation from your sources to help minimize the amount quoted in the original research paper. Done. Again, I attribute the author. Okay, I'm using a stamp there, but anyways, you get the idea. So I'm attributing the author, and everything's good. All right, we're almost done. I'll show you this plagiarized version and then we're almost done. I just basically have to talk about citations and what to do if you guys ever get or have an issue with academic honesty. So very close to being done. Okay, here's a plagiarized version. Students often use too many direct quotations when they take notes. So, I mean, look at that first sentence. It's so much like the original. In the original, students frequently overuse direct quotation in taking notes. Well, students often use too many direct quotations when they take notes. It's just too much the same. So I'm going to continue reading the plagiarized version. So students often use too many direct quotations when they take notes, resulting in too many of them in the final paper. In fact, only about 10% of the final copy should consist of directly quoted material. You can see it's just too similar. I'm talking about the 10%. This is an example of plagiarism. Okay, thanks for the message, Afafa. No problem. Sorry, I just had a little private message there. Okay, so we're almost done. References. In order to avoid plagiarism, you must use or create a reference list from all of your cited information. So every time you report some data, you paraphrase somebody's words, you summarize something, you need to quote the original author. Quoting the original author is called sometimes a reference list or a citation list. And it is not for me in this course to explain to you how. You guys will learn about this in another course in communications. So luckily for us, this isn't really something you need to worry about for SD, but you will definitely need to create citations in communications, and then when you're doing research papers in your actual programs. Now, one thing, the best part about using the college's library website, and if you remember a couple of weeks ago, I showed you guys how to use how to use the library website, how to search. Well, the library actually has this amazing feature that I wish they had when I was younger. Maybe they did, I don't know. But there's this little button here, and it's like two little quotation marks. Clicking on these buttons will automatically generate a reference or a citation for you, so you don't have to type it up. Again, if you let me just go backwards a few slides, your reference list has to contain the author, the date it was written, the title, the publisher, the pages. I mean, it's more complicated than it looks, or maybe it does look very complicated. I don't know, but you have to use commas and periods and italicized writing when needed. I mean, there's rules and a format that you must follow, but the library's website will create them for you, which is amazing. Sarah, there's a question in the chat. Yes, you do have an assignment this week. I'm going to share it today, and because we didn't have class on Sunday, I'll give you guys a week to do that. So you can have until like next Monday night to do that assignment. But yes, there is an assignment this week, and I'm almost done, and then I'll talk to you about that assignment. Okay. So, what happens at the college if you are caught, or I shouldn't say caught, but accused of academic dishonesty? Okay, and it's really important that one, you know your rights at the college. If you've been accused and you don't think it's fair, there are things that you can do. But first, let's talk about what are the consequences. There's a 4 penalty list from the College of the North Atlantic, the academic dishonesty procedure. This is in the student handbook. So typically, the first time you're caught cheating or copying or stealing work or whatever it is, you would get a written reprimand by your instructor and then no credit for the work. So if it was a math assignment, you get a 0 on the math assignment. Now, what about this written reprimand? Well, what that means is this is a file that will go on your record. So, employees can see this, that you were caught cheating and your instructor wrote a letter for you. So the written reprimand is almost worse than getting a 0. The second incident is written reprimand again, and you will be suspended from the course. So again, if you were cheating on a math assignment, it was your second incident, you would be dropped from the math course. Third incident, you would be suspended from the program for 1 semester. So for example, if that happened to you this semester, you would be suspended until intersession in May. And then fourth incident, you're suspended from the program for 1 entire year. So again, if you, let's say this happened to you in March, you wouldn't be able to come back until intersession in April or May. So pretty serious stuff. Now, if you feel a decision has been unfair to you, you can appeal. If you really weren't cheating, or I've seen this happen before. Students copy other students, but the original student didn't know anything about it. Meaning, while the original student wasn't looking, someone took a photo of their assignment. I've seen it all. So as a CNAQ student, if you feel a decision is unfair, you can ask for an appeal. What the appeal means is you're looking to see if you can have a decision reversed. So how do you do this? Well, there's two people you need to talk to. But the first thing you do is you complete what's called Section A on the application for academic appeal by the deadline. Now, a few things. You can get this form at the registrar's office. So in like building 3/building 1, I technically never know which it is. I guess it's in building 1. Kind of down by the female cafeteria. So the registrar's office can give you a copy of this. You provide information, proof as much as you can. Maybe you have a friend that can speak on your behalf, but you write as much as possible. State why you are appealing and what you will do differently. And you must submit this by the deadline. Now, the deadline is until the last day of registration in the next semester. So if this happened to you this semester, you would have until late April to actually get this submitted. All right, almost done. Very, very close. Once you've submitted the application for academic appeal, once you've written the application for academic appeal, you submit it to the counselor for your school. If you don't know who your counselor is, I also don't know. I'd have to look it up, meaning it depends on if you're in engineering or medical science or IT, or some of you are what's called the School of General Education. But if you ever need to know who your counselor is, the registrar's office or myself could definitely tell you. The counselor, the guidance counselor, can also help you complete Section A, and the counselor themselves will then finish the process. So it's really a good situation. You get the form, you fill out as much as possible, bring it to the guidance counselor, and they can help. What happens next is then you will, if this is a good report, if things are moving forward, you will have to attend an appeal meeting. And it's like going to court. You attend this meeting, you be on time, and you'll be given an opportunity to speak and take responsibility for your actions. You can bring someone to support you, like maybe your parent, a friend, a counselor, but typically they can't participate. But you can bring somebody if you think you might need some emotional support. And then once a decision will be made, you will be notified in writing. So typically via email, and you might even get a physical letter. If the decision was that you did not cheat, then it's wiped from your record. It's like it never happened. So anyways, just a good idea to keep in mind that If something like this happens to you and you truly, truly feel that you were innocent or it was a miscommunication, there is a process for you to complete. All right, now that's it for the note. I mean, that's it for this week's unit. I do, again, apologize for not having class on Sunday. For anybody who came in a little bit late, I was in contact with somebody with coronavirus, so I had to get tested, and I haven't been confirmed yet. I don't have my results yet, but I should literally soon. Anytime now. But anyways, it doesn't affect you guys. I'm feeling fine. We are not in contact with each other, so it's definitely not something you need to worry about from me. Now, your assignment this week is about academic integrity, and it's not a quiz like last week. It's another Dropbox assignment. So I'll just show you kind of what that looks like now in a second. And I'm going to give you a little extra time because of Sunday's class. I'll give you a bit extra time. So it won't actually be due until next Monday at midnight. I'm just making sure that that is copied. I'll share my screen in a second there. Oops. All right, so how does this assignment work? Well, luckily it's into week number, I don't know, 6 or 7 right now, so I don't need to show you too much details on how this works, but there's a lot of videos and extra things you guys can read. I'll make that visible for you. There's a lot of videos and things that you can look at. Don't worry. All you need to do is do your assignment, which is right here. It's very much like assignment 2. It's another mind map. I'll kind of let you guys read that. It's due for you on Tuesday. Let me just go back. It's due February 22nd, Tuesday at 11:30 p.m. So you have just a little under a week to do that. And you can access the assignment here, clicking on this link, and your instructions are here. I'll kind of leave it at that because this is probably your 6th or 7th assignment for me. You guys are pretty good at it now. But if you do have any questions on this, you can send me an email. So other than that, that's it for today. Thanks for coming. Any questions, let me know.